Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is another in my declutter series, and today, as you can see, it is eyeshadows. Mainly eyeshadow palettes, but there are the odd individual eyeshadow thrown in there as well. I didn't actually realise until I started gathering all this together how many eyeshadow palettes I actually have, how many duplicate shades I actually have, and how little I need any more eyeshadow palettes, but also how much I still want more eyeshadow palettes. So let's get into it. I will start here with this one, and this is the NYX Ultimate Shadow Palette, and this is the Warm Neutrals one. I bought this palette with the intention of saving myself some money from not buying the Naked Heat palette, but as you can see in the corner here, I have the Naked Heat palette, and that is because I was rather disappointed with this one. I believe I paid £17 for it, which for a drugstore brand is rather pricey for an eyeshadow palette, considering the quality of it. Overall, I just don't think it performed well, and then when I did compare it to the Naked Heat, which I appreciate is a high-end palette, it was just, there was no competition at all. These shades kind of aren't really very pigmented and just don't show up on my skin. These shades all here kind of muddy together if you're not careful when mixing them. This shade here is a really nice shade but doesn't show this pigmented on the lid. You do have to use your finger with all of these shimmers for them to show at all, because using a brush you get zero pigment in my opinion. So I say I was really disappointed with this, and this is the first one that I am going to pass on. Next we have this small little trio here by the band Pop Beauty. I think I received this in a subscription box a while ago, and it has been well used because at the time I got this my eyeshadow palette collection was non-existent, and this was a nice little staple that I used to have thrown in my handbag should I need to create a quick look for any impromptu nights out, bearing in mind this was pre having a baby. This is a really nice mocha shade. We've got a peach shade in the middle and then a pearlescent highlighter shade, and as you can see I have used the applicator sponge that came with it because it's not too bad, to be honest, for an applicator sponge. I am however going to pass this on or potentially throw it away because it has been well used, and I do now have an alternative to this which I much prefer the formula of. So this one is going to go. And this is the one that I've kind of replaced it with, and this is the Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells trio. And as you can see, the shades are very similar in that there's a pearlescent brow highlighter, there's a mocha brown crease shade, and then instead of the peach shade in the middle there is a more pinky all over eyelid shade, and this one's great because it comes with a brush and a sponge applicator. The formula of this is so much better, I think, than the Pop Beauty palette, so I say this has kind of replaced it as my handbag staple, shall we say, so I'm definitely going to keep hold of this. Next on to this one, which is the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself. I absolutely love this palette, not down to its versatility, because in no ways is it versatile in that it's not a independent eyeshadow palette and is more like a accent palette to go with something else. Yes, there is a nude brown shade up here, but it's not the best pigmentation wise or formula wise, to be honest, but these other shades are brilliant. The highlighter in the middle is supposed to be a facial highlighter, but it's a bit too chalky / chunky for that for me. I tend to use it as a brow bone highlight, which for that it is brilliant. My favourite shade at the moment tends to be this one, which I'm pairing with quite a few looks in my sort of inner corner / inner quarter of my eyelid, just to make the look that I'm using kind of pop. And that is, I say, what I use this for, to team up with other eyeshadow palettes, but still really enjoy it, really love the formula, love the pigmentation that you get from it, and would definitely recommend if you've not got it. It is a brilliant staple to have in your collection. Next we've got this Colourpop You Had Me at Hello palette, and this was my first ever purchase from Colourpop. It's not the shades that I am normally drawn to, but for some reason I was drawn to this palette. with its warm tones. I thought it would be nice for winter, and I have used it for that. Over the winter months, if I wasn't reaching for this, I was reaching for the Naked Heat palette. I particularly like this shade and this shade. They are really pretty shimmers. They are really pigmented and they blend beautifully, and the mattes in this palette are great as well. So it is a really good warm palette that I would highly recommend, especially for the price, because I think even with the conversion from dollars it was under £20, and it does come with a mirror as well, which not many of the Colourpop shadows do come with, but I really rate this one, so we'll definitely be keeping hold of this. Another Colourpop palette that I got was this Golden State of Mind one, and this wasn't one I actually chose. I got sent this because I spent over $50. I don't think this one sold as well as they thought it would, so I noticed that if it wasn't on sale, it was included as a sort of freebie for spending over $50. Obviously they had a huge backlog of them to get rid of. I haven't actually used this palette, it's still in its box, but these are the shades that are in it. I'll just open it up. It is a really pretty palette, it just looks a bit too chunky for me, but the shades are really nice. This does look similar to one of the ones that is in the You Have Me at Hello palette, but I just think they're too glittery, so I haven't touched it. I haven't even swatched any of them. I've just looked up reviews online to see what people have thought, and they have said that it's a nice palette, but there are better from Colourpop. So what my intentions are, I'm going to keep hold of it for now, but if and when I reach 100 subscribers, I will do a giveaway of this palette. If anyone is interested, let me know in the comments below, and I will definitely do that giveaway for you when I reach 100 subscribers. Next I'll go for one of the individual ones, and this is one of the Colourpop Super Shock shadows, and in the shade Sequin. I was kindly sent this from the YouTuber Super Lady as part of our UK-USA swap. I have used it a couple of times and it is a really nice shade on the eyes. There is a bit of fallout from it, but it's so pigmented you can kind of get away with it, and it is handy to just grab sometimes when I just want a bit of extra shimmer on my lid, so I will be keeping hold of this one. Next we have this compact Lancome palette. This is the colour Focus Quad. I don't know what all the marks are on it. It's probably been sitting at the bottom of my makeup drawer because I have not used this for a good while. And these are not shades that I tend to reach for anymore. You've got a violet purple, a silver, a bright lilac, and then a white shade, and it is a very white shade. I say I don't reach for this anymore. I've used it a few times, as you can see, but it was a palette that I kind of reached for just to use an accent of colour, mainly this white one. That is too bright for lilac for me. The silver, if I remember rightly, didn't go on great, and I used this shade a couple of times, but I just don't reach for it enough, so I think I'm going to get rid of this one. Next we have this Fleur de Force quad, and this is the Lunar Rose palette. These are really nice shades. The quality of them is not great though. This is probably the best performing shade, and this was the one that drew me to the palette because I really like that kind of shimmery taupe colour. This purple here is a bit gritty, so it doesn't blend very well, and this coloured, I think this is like a very, very light pink colour, and this barely shows up on my eyelids at all, and neither does this one really, to be honest. So when I first bought it, because I didn't have much to compare it to, I was impressed at the time, but the more my collection's grown, the more that's made me realise that this just isn't the best quality. And I do love Fleur as a YouTuber, but I'm going to pass this on. Next we have this Hard Candy, and it is the Pinking of You palette. This was a purchase that I made when I was in America a few years ago in one of the drugstores. I think it might have been CVS. And I really, really loved it at the time because I have always been a shimmer shadow kind of girl. And this is literally all different shimmers. And this was one that I took on holiday with me every year because what better place than to use a lot of shimmer on your eyes and on holiday. So this has come with me on the past few holidays that I've been on. It is one of those palettes where you can't really mix a lot of the colours together because they are all shimmers and they do kind of muddy together, but it is great to be able to use one of the shades over the whole of your lid, and if you're going on a week's holiday you've got enough to use a different shade every night and also have sort of brow highlighter shades as well. So it is a really great palette, but I do think it's time to get rid of it because it has been well loved, well used, but I'm now in a different place with my shadows, shall we say, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Next we have this 17 palette, which is a complete colour mini compact, and this actually does contain a couple of lipsticks in it as well. Other than to swatch them, I don't think I've ever used because I do not like them at all. The palette looks like it's a bit mouldy, but it's not. It's just that this green has kind of got into all of the pans somehow. But this is a palette that I do not reach for anymore at all. This was the main shade that I used to use, to be honest, and that was pretty much it. So I will definitely be binning this because I've probably had it a bit too long. I don't even know if the brand 17 is still in existence. It used to be the teen version of the number 7 brand in Boots, but I don't think I've seen this in Boots for a long time, so I say this should be bin definitely. Okay, let's pull things in a little closer. Right, I'll go for this one next, seeing it jumped out at me. This is a Avon Colour Trend Duo, and this is in True Romance. This was, I think, one of the first shadows that I bought when I realised that you could put more than one shade on your eyelid and not just one colour all over the lid. And for some reason I didn't think to go for neutrals. I thought I'll go bright first, and I've not used this hardly at all because I think I put it on once and the look I achieved was awful. Tried again one more time and then I don't think I've reached for it since. So this is definitely a no-go. When I did used to just do one shade all over the lid, the one I used to use was the Benefit. I can't remember the name of the product, but it's just the little pot that you used to get, and it was just a one shimmer shade, and I used to use that all over my lid. And I think, if I remember rightly, the shade was called Flatter Me. If anyone can remember the name of the product, please let me know in the comments below because it'll really annoy me otherwise. Okay, back to the palettes. Next one is this Tarte Tease. This is a great one for travel and a great one also for kind of throwing in your handbag in case you need to use a look. These two shades here are probably my most reached for, but there's probably not a shade in this that I don't use for most eye looks. This is a really nice one to throw all over the lid as kind of a base for your colour. This shade is slightly shimmery but is not too bad as a crease shade, and then I use one of these in the outer corner and then this to give me some shimmer on the inner quarter of my eyelid. But this was a brilliant purchase, and I think this might have been the first eyeshadow palette I bought from Tarte, and it was because I liked the formula of this so much that made me purchase the Make Believe in Yourself palette. But we'll definitely be keeping hold of this. We have this random quad that I found. Don't know where it's from. I don't know how long I've had it, but it looks like it may potentially be from the 80s with the packaging and the colours. I don't think I've even swatched this at all, but I just threw it in the pile when I seen it. It's not even got any shade names, or it just literally says eyeshadow on it, but I just had to include this as a bit of a joke. I thought it was quite funny because it looked really old, but these shadows are so gritty and so disgusting feeling, so this one is going to go in the bin. Next we have this W7 Delicious palette, and this was one that I recently bought in an outlet mall, as I believe it is supposed to be a dupe for the Anastasia Beverly Hills. The formula of this isn't great, the pigmentation isn't great. It goes on okay, but it does take quite a bit of work. The only good thing I would say that has come from this, it's made me realise that I don't think I want the Modern Renaissance one because I just won't reach for these types of colours. these types of colours here I've got in other eyeshadow palettes, probably the Naked Heat palette, so I don't need, and I don't think I want, the Modern Renaissance palette now. So if anything, I've saved myself some money in that respect. One thing I must say, the brush that came with it though was pretty good, so I'll probably keep hold of that, but I think I'm going to pass this palette on to a friend because I've only used it a few times, so it's still relatively new, but I don't think I'm going to end up reaching for it, and if I kept it, it would just be to collect dust, if I'm honest. Next, let's go to the Naked Heat, seeing as I keep referencing it. I had my eye on this palette for so long, but put off buying it because I didn't know if I could pull off warm eyeshadows. This is the palette that I probably get the most compliments for on my eye look when I wear this one. So it turns out I am a warm eyeshadow person, and I love the original Naked, which as you can see is here. So I knew I liked the Naked formula, but I do, even though, yes, okay, it's not the most versatile of palettes, you can't get a multitude of different looks from it, but still, it is such a nice palette to work with, and I reach for this an awful lot over the winter months because that's when I associate wearing warm eyeshadow looks with. But I don't think there's any bad shades in here really. I think this one is probably my favourite and the one I use the most, so definitely will be keeping hold of that. And again, another palette with a brilliant brush that I do use every time I use this palette, rather than going through 5 different other brushes in my collection. So definitely will be keeping hold of this one. And it seems only fair to go on to the original Naked, which was the actual first ever full-size eyeshadow palette that I ever bought. I think I bought this on my honeymoon in San Francisco, and I was in Macy's and was so excited to actually buy it because it was at that point that I realised I enjoyed makeup, because I never wore makeup for a lot of years, and it has actually only been maybe the past year that I've basically got an obsession with makeup that I never had in my teen years. So now I'm kind of playing catch up with all the things I've been buying, but this was definitely my staple, and I don't think I will ever get rid of this because, okay, I don't reach for it an awful lot anymore because I've got other palettes that I now like the look of, but I will always go back to this every so often, and it does have such a fond place in my heart. One, I bought it on my honeymoon, and two, because it's just the first official multiple panned eyeshadow palette that I bought, so definitely will be keeping hold of this. Next we have this Accessorize eyeshadow palette. Who knew that Accessorize did makeup? I think I received this free when I bought some perfume one Christmas a long time ago, and this is probably the only eyeshadow that I've had that I've ever panned. But this is probably the only eyeshadow that I used in it. I mean, there is a dent in a lot of the colours, but I don't think I used a lot of them. I used this one a lot, and as you can see, I used that one, but with regards to the colours, I didn't really use them. And even though this was a palette, this was back in the day when I only ever did one colour on my lid, so it was pointless having this as a palette really. But this is very, very old. As you can see, it is broken, and I think I've kept this for sentimental reasons, so I think it is time for it to be binned now. Next we have this knockoff Meet Matte palette, and this was one of the ones that I bought on AliExpress. It's not a bad palette. It was nice to see the selection of colours, and I have kind of used it as I used the W7 Delicious palette as to whether I like the shades and whether I would like to purchase the actual Meet Matte. I can't remember which Meet Matte palette this is supposed to be based on, but again, I've realised I have a lot of these shades in palettes that I already own. The only one that's probably a bit different is this kind of light mustardy colour. So I don't think that I'm going to keep hold of this because it kind of serves its purpose now. And even though I've not had any issues with any eye irritation or anything like that using it, I am just wary of eyeshadow palettes that are purchased through AliExpress, and I do kind of just use them for experimental purposes rather than as an actual everyday palette. So I think I have done what I need to with this. I think I paid a few pounds for it anyway, so it's no great loss, and effectively it's saving money from purchasing the original Meet Matte whatever one it is from the balm. Go to this one. This is another one that I got from AliExpress, and it is another one that is supposed to be a rip-off of the balm. I can't decide though if it's supposed to be volume 1 or volume 2, the way they've done the numbering, but in my opinion this palette performs slightly better than that other one, and trying this has made me realise that I definitely want to buy the Mary Luminizer once I've run out of my current highlighter, because again, even though this wasn't the official one, this still performed pretty well and it made me want to try the original one. I really like this khaki green colour, so this made me want to get a khaki green eyeshadow, which I did in this individual Colourpop one, which we'll come to in a second. And a lot of the other colours I already have in my collection. As I said before, I don't like potted lips, so I haven't actually touched these, but these actually smell pretty nice, which is good that you don't smell too much like talc, which a lot of rip-off eyeshadow palettes can do. These blushes, I think I actually have a sample of the original and I have compared the two, and this does perform pretty similar, to be honest. I'm not too sure whether to keep hold of this one or not, because this one is pretty versatile, and I say this one does perform a lot better than the other rip-off one, but again I'm just wary that it is a rip-off one. I don't really need it as such, and I don't think I'll reach for it, so again it did only cost me a few pounds, so no, I think I might see if a friend wants this one. Okay, let's pull these in. Seeing as we're on the AliExpress ones, this is the last one that I actually got from AliExpress, and the reason that I bought this was because of the colours were supposed to be very similar to the Naked 3 palette, which I don't own but had considered owning, so I wanted to see what I thought of the rosy gold shades. These are very sheer in pigmentation, so it's obviously not a true representation of the Naked 3 palette in any way. So again, I think this one might have only been £1, so I'm going to get rid of this one because it kind of did serve its purpose. And talking about the Naked 3, next we have this Makeup Revolution, and it is the Redemption Palette Iconic 3. This is something that I was sent in the UK USA mystery package from Super Lady, and again I believe this is supposed to be a dupe for the Naked 3. I have tried it a couple of times and it's not too bad, to be honest. I think we can actually get this here, and I think these only retail for about £5, which is obviously a fraction of the price of the Naked 3. And now I have these colours, having this has actually satisfied me now that I don't need to buy the Naked 3. Yes, they're probably not as pigmented as the Urban Decay palette, but they don't perform too badly, and I think if I did want to create a kind of rose goldy look, I would happily reach for this, so I am going to keep hold of this. And I'm glad that Super Lady managed to save me quite a few pounds by now not having to buy the Naked 3 palette, so thank you for that. Another Makeup Revolution one I have, and this is one I purchased myself, and this is the Iconic 1. So based on the numbering, this is supposed to be like the Naked palette, the original Naked, which obviously I know and love. And the reason I actually did buy this one was I wanted to do a comparison between them, with it being a palette that I had. I just never ever got round to filming it, and I have used this a few times just to do that comparison, but I wanted to kind of do swatches side by side. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know in the comments below and I can definitely film that for you. Other than that, it is something that I do reach for every so often when I don't want as pigmented of a look, because the shades aren't as good as the Urban Decay one, but they aren't too bad. So I am going to keep hold of that also, especially just in case you want the comparison video as well, but I will keep hold of this one for now. So next we have the Too Faced Chocolate Bar. This was, I believe, the second full-size eyeshadow palette that I bought after loving the original Naked one so much. And I've got to be honest, I was actually slightly disappointed by this. I don't know exactly why, but I just don't, in my opinion, think they perform as well as the Naked eyeshadow palettes. But I know a lot of people feel the opposite way, in that they prefer this formula to the Naked formula. But me personally, I much prefer the Naked formula, and I do not reach for this hardly ever. But what I actually intend to do is maybe take this on holiday with me, obviously given the sturdy packaging as well, which should make it last the journey, because it has got a few pops of colour in it, and it has got the potential to achieve a few different looks. I want to take this on holiday with me and have this as the only eyeshadow palette I've got to reach for, in the hope that I will give it a good try, because I don't want to write it off too prematurely without having really used it. But when it's at home amongst a collection of other palettes, I just don't find myself reaching for it. And as you can see, the similar one here, this is the Makeup Revolution take on the chocolate bar. I did purchase this with the intention of doing another comparison video, but again, never got round to actually filming it. So if that's something you'd like to see on my channel, let me know in the comments below. The few times that I've actually tried this, I really like the formula of this. I think this actually performs better than the Iconic shadows. So I'm going to keep hold of this one for now. Just do these couple of individual ones here. So we have this Colourpop pressed shadow in the shade Team Captain, and I picked this up, as I said, because of liking the khaki coloured green in the palm of your hand rip-off palette that I had. This isn't as pigmented as I thought it would be, but it is quite nice to have in my collection for a bit of a different colour. That was a good little investment to have, so I'm going to keep hold of that. Then we have this 17 Eyes in the shade Viva Diva. Completely forgot I had this. I've had this for a very long time. As I say, I don't think that the brand 17 exists in Boots anymore, because I don't think I've seen it. It was when I was younger, the teenage version of number 7, because I remember going into Boots with my mum and she'd go to number 7 to buy hair makeup and I'd go to 17 to see what they had. And this was one that I owned, so this is probably a lot older than I care to admit, but I've stumbled across it by chance, so I'm going to bin it now. But it's a really nice shade, but I just think it's probably well past its sell-by date by now. This is the New by Nature individual shadow that I got in a recent Latest in Beauty box. This is in the shade Coral. I've only used this once or twice. It is a nice shadow, but I'm struggling to find things to pair it with, because obviously it's a standalone shadow and not in a palette. But it is a really nice compact, and I think I might just throw this in my handbag, because it seems a shame to not use it after only having it for so long. But if I don't find myself reaching for it, I will pass it on to a friend. Next we have this Wet n Wild Poster Child palette. This I kind of purchased on a whim because it was only £1 in the outlet mall I went to recently. I don't know what I actually thought I was going to use it for. I have had a little play with it and the colours aren't as pigmented as I thought they would be. I managed to achieve a nice look from this side, but this was kind of just a bit of a wash. So I'm going to keep hold of it just mainly for this side. And I suppose I might incorporate one or two of these in a look somewhere along the line, but these just, as soon as you put them on, they kind of blend away to nothing. But for £1, it's worth to keep for now. And finally, we have my newest purchase, which is the e.l.f. Mad for Matte palette in Holy Smokes. I am absolutely loving this palette. I think I paid £4 for it on sale instead of the full price of £10. And I just absolutely love it. I think the shades blend beautifully. They are really pigmented, and considering I am a shimmer shadow girl, this has kind of sold me on more of a matte look. I really love this teal shade, which I didn't think I would. I've not tried this blue one, but I do intend to try it very soon. And I really love this kind of slightly browny terracotta colour in my crease. But overall, a really good palette, so I'm definitely keeping hold of that. So these are the shadows that I am keeping. So I think we've got about 16 there. And these are the shadows that I'm getting rid of, and there are 14 here. I know a lot more of the ones that I'm getting rid of are individual shadows as opposed to palettes, but still I think that's a pretty good declutter for me anyway. So if you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. Thanks.